The announcement echoed off the steel rafters, Track 7, now boarding. I didn't move. People brushed past me like rainwater around a stone, but I stood still, right at the edge of the yellow line, just far enough not to be in danger, but close enough to feel the rumble beneath my boots. The red scarf in my hand was damp. I don't remember when I started gripping it so tightly. I only noticed when a thread came loose, curling like smoke between my fingers. She was there, across the platform. A girl, maybe 20, maybe younger, maybe older. Pale denim jacket. Coffee-stained sneakers. She wasn't looking at anything in particular, just watching, with that same quiet stare people have when they've been waiting too long. The train hadn't arrived yet, but I could feel it coming. Like how dogs sense storms. I looked down at the scarf. It wasn't even mine. It was his. He always left something behind, even when he was careful. A mug on the windowsill. A sock beneath the bed. A ficus on the third step of the stairs, like a sentry. A joke at first, he'd said. Then a habit. Then, just where it belongs. But I moved it. I moved it. And when it fell, when the ceramic pot cracked into 6 sharp pieces and soil scattered like ashes, I stared at the mess like it had spoken. I didn't even try to clean it. Not at first. The ficus didn't die, not right away. I propped it up, packed the roots. Lied to myself like I'd been lying about everything else. But the leaves dulled. Curled. Turned in on themselves. Just like I did. Across the platform, the girl shifted. She reached into her pocket, pulled out a cracked watch. I recognized it. Not the make, not the style. The feeling. That kind of broken doesn't happen from dropping it once, it happens from too many small fractures. Things you ignore. Things you hope will fix themselves. The train's headlights pierced the curve of the tunnel like eyes that saw too much. Wind rushed through. My hair whipped across my cheek, and suddenly I felt very, very awake. I remembered the sound the pot made when it broke. Not a shatter. A thud. Like something giving up. The scarf slipped from my hand. Fell onto the tracks. Red against rusted metal. I should have reacted. I didn't. She's not coming back, the girl murmured, not looking at me. I wasn't sure if she was talking to me. Or about me. Or through me. The train screamed in. I stepped back. She didn't. The crowd surged forward. I felt the pull of bodies, of motion, of something moving whether I wanted it to or not. I thought about the ficus. I thought about the dirt beneath my nails. The silence that grew louder after he left. I thought about the things we place in familiar corners just to convince ourselves we're safe. The scarf was still down there, twisting in the breeze like it wanted to become something else. Like it remembered being warm once. My hands were still shaking when the doors slid open. I didn't know what I was about to do. But I knew I couldn't go home. The scarf was gone by the time I looked again. Either swallowed by the rails or taken by the wind, I couldn't tell. The train hissed like it knew a secret. I didn't move to board. I just stood there, one hand clutching the worn strap of my small suitcase, the same one I had as a teenager. Same scuff near the zipper. Same broken wheel. My father used to joke, "You'll carry this bag longer than you'll carry love." I laughed then. I didn't now. People brushed past, reuniting with arms wide, with eyes shining. One woman squealed as her daughter ran into her arms, feet lifted clean off the ground. Another man grabbed someone's face and kissed them, forehead first, like something sacred had returned. And me, still. Still and stupidly waiting. For what? No one was coming. He wasn't coming. He was 12 time zones away and still felt closer than I wanted him to. His messages had stopped 4 days ago. Not that I counted. Not that I read them twice. Or saved the voice note where he laughed, low and tired, telling me to water the ficus like it was some fragile child. Don't move it. You know it hates being moved. He didn't say I love you. Not anymore. But he said that. The ficus was never just a plant. It was the last thing we touched together. The last shared thing that didn't argue back. When it fell, I didn't just see soil. I saw everything we tried to pretend was fine. And it wasn't. Not then. Not for a while. I sat down on the bench by the platform wall, suitcase beside me, fingers trembling as I dug through the side pocket for a stick of gum. Old receipts. A faded photo of us in Dubrovnik. My birth control pills, forgotten again. The gum was stale. I chewed it anyway. Across the way, the girl from before was gone. But someone else stood there now. A man. He wasn't looking directly at me. Just in my direction. He had that stillness. Not the awkward kind. The deliberate kind. Like silence meant something to him. I looked away, down at my lap, and smoothed the hem of my sleeve. My hand still smelled faintly of ficus bark and cheap lavender soap. It started to drizzle outside. A soft, persistent tap on the glass. I remembered a night, maybe 3 winters ago, when I'd stood in the kitchen wearing one sock and drinking wine from a chipped mug. He came up behind me, wrapped his arms around my waist, and whispered, "Don't go anywhere, okay?" I told him I wasn't planning to. But people say things. And then they go. I wondered if the man across the way knew what it was like to hold promises like they were stones, heavy, smooth, useless. He was closer now. On the same platform. Just sitting 2 benches down. Still not looking at me, not fully. But present in that way strangers sometimes are, like a mirror you didn't ask for. I glanced at the train doors. Still open. A few passengers trickled on. I could leave. I could go. But my legs didn't rise. My phone buzzed in my coat pocket. I didn't check it. Not right away. I didn't want to see his name. Or worse, no name at all. Instead, I stood. Slowly. Suitcase in hand. The man looked up, finally. Just a flicker of a glance. Enough to notice, not enough to hold. I stepped toward the train. 1 foot on. 1 foot off. I looked back. Not at the man. Not at the tracks. At the space where the scarf had fallen. I thought maybe I saw it again. Caught on a bolt, half buried. Maybe not. I hesitated. And the doors hissed. The doors hissed again, open, waiting, like a breath held just a second too long. I didn't step in. Not yet. Behind me, thunder cracked low in the sky, like a threat held in someone's chest. The rain was no longer a drizzle. It smacked the concrete in fat, deliberate drops, washing away footprints, washing away thought. I turned my head, slow. The man was still sitting on the bench, water sliding off the brim of his hood, dripping down his jaw. He hadn't flinched when the storm started. His suitcase sat between his feet, old, leather, the handle wrapped in twine like it had snapped and been saved by someone who still believed in repair. He didn't look at me. Just ran his thumb along the edge of something in his lap. A photograph. Torn at the corner, folded too many times. I couldn't see the face on it. But I saw the way his hand moved, gentle, like apology. And suddenly, I knew that photo meant more than anything he could ever say. I stayed by the door, 1 foot still inside, the other drowning in rain. I should have left. I should have just left. But his silence wasn't empty. It was a shape. A weight. A mirror I hadn't known I'd been carrying. Was it him I was drawn to? Or the ache behind his stillness, the familiar kind? I stepped back onto the platform. He looked up, finally. Not surprised. Not smug. Just, there. Present. Eyes dark with something unreadable. "Train's leaving," he said, voice hoarse from disuse. I shrugged. "So am I." A twitch at the corner of his mouth. Not quite a smile. Not quite not. I sat on the far edge of his bench. Close enough to feel the heat off his coat. Far enough to lie to myself about why I did it. The storm rolled again, louder this time. "You from here?" I asked, fingers clutching my suitcase like it might run without me. No, silence. Then, as if the word had loosened more, "Not anywhere, really." He tapped the edge of the photo once before slipping it into the wallet tucked under his thigh. It didn't quite close. I caught a glimpse of a woman. Blonde. Laughing. Blurry. My throat burned. We sat like that for a while, rain slamming the roof above, water collecting at our feet. A man across the tracks lit a cigarette with trembling hands. Somewhere, a child cried. The storm didn't care. "What's in the photo?" I asked. He didn't answer. Just stared ahead like memory was safer if it stayed unsaid. "Did you move it?" he asked. I blinked. "What?" "The plant." I swallowed. "Yeah," I said. "I moved it." He nodded once. "That's when it all falls apart." My breath caught. "How did you?" But he didn't explain. He didn't have to. We were both the kind of people who move things we shouldn't. I looked down at his shoes, cheap, cracked, soles worn uneven. The kind of wear that comes from walking too far and too long in the wrong direction. I thought about my ficus. How I kept the broken pot, even after the plant died. I couldn't throw it out. I don't know why. Maybe some part of me hoped it would grow again. Maybe I was just bad at letting go. Another train arrived behind us, lights slicing the platform in half. Its reflection ran like blood across the wet concrete. He didn't look. Neither did I. "I should go," I whispered. He said nothing. But he didn't move either. And neither did I. The rain had softened into a mist, like the sky was too tired to cry properly anymore. I stood. My hands were numb. Fingers curled around the frayed handle of my suitcase like a lifeline, though I didn't know where it was taking me, if anywhere. He hadn't said another word since the last train came and went. Just sat there with the weight of that photo still pressing a quiet dent into his coat. I took a step away. Then another. This time, I meant to go. But halfway across the platform, I turned. One last look. That's all I needed. That's all I told myself. He was still there. But something had changed. In his hand, my scarf. The red one. Damp, dirt-stained, edges torn like it had been scraped from under a train or pulled from a grave. He didn't look at me. Just held it loosely, fingers barely curled around the fabric, like he wasn't sure if it was his to keep. I blinked hard. Was it even mine anymore? Some people carry more than just bags. They carry silence. And he was full of it. That heavy, human kind. I didn't know if he was giving it back or just holding it because he knew I couldn't. A couple walked past me, the woman clinging to the man's arm, laughing too loudly, eyes skimming me as they passed. She wrinkled her nose like I smelled of something sour. Or maybe she just didn't like the look in my eyes, the kind of look that ruins happy endings. I turned away, ashamed without knowing why. My suitcase rolled crooked on the broken wheel. I dragged it anyway. Each step louder than the last. But I couldn't stop looking back. And he didn't stop watching me. Not overtly. Not hungrily. Just watching. Like he was waiting for something that might never come. A little boy nearby pointed at the scarf. "Mom, look, red." The mother tugged him along without a glance. I stopped at the edge of the station, right where the overhang ends and the world begins. Water dripped from the brim of my coat. My breath fogged in front of me, soft and unsure. I closed my eyes. For a moment, it felt like I was still holding the pot, still hearing it fall. The sound of something that never screamed, finally breaking. I wanted to scream. Right there, in the open air. I wanted to let it all split me open, the missed calls, the ficus, the scarf, the photo of a woman who probably laughed in color while I learned to cry in silence. But I didn't. I just turned. Slowly. He was standing now. Holding the scarf out, arm extended like some kind of truce. Or surrender. The scarf fluttered in the wind. A moment passed. Then another. I didn't move toward him. Not really. My feet just stopped leaving. "Why do you have it?" I asked, voice hoarse. "I saw it fall," he said softly. "Didn't think it should stay there." Our eyes met. Neither of us reached further. And in the distance, another train began to hum. We stood in the quiet just before it arrived, caught in something too real to name. Not love. Not yet. Not rescue. Just two broken people, each holding a piece of the other's wreckage, too afraid to ask if that was permission or punishment. The scarf blew between us like a fragile question. And I couldn't answer it. The scarf was still between us, trembling like it knew something I didn't. He didn't offer it again. Just held it, eyes unreadable, like he was letting me decide what to do with what had once been mine. I took a breath. And stepped forward. My fingers brushed the edge of the fabric, but his hand didn't let go right away. Something shifted in that tiny pause. A flicker of resistance, like he wasn't just returning it, like he needed to hold it a second longer. And then, finally, he released. It felt heavier than it should have. I looked down at the worn red threads, now darkened from the storm and caked with dirt. But it wasn't just weathered. It was stitched, badly, by hand, along the seam. A small initial, barely legible. L. I looked up. He was already walking away. No goodbye. No backward glance. But I wasn't ready to let him go. Not yet. "Wait," I called. He stopped. Slowly turned. "I know this scarf," I said quietly. But not like I thought. His eyes dropped to the concrete. "You weren't supposed to." My mouth went dry. "I don't understand." He hesitated. Then pulled his wallet out again. Slipped the photograph from it and held it out like a confession. I stepped forward. The woman in the picture was smiling, sun on her shoulders. But beside her, barely in frame, a little girl. Bright-eyed. Wearing my scarf. But younger. Whole. Clean. "I gave it to her," he said. "When she was sick." He paused. "When she got better, she left it in a cafe. I never found it again." I stared at him. The air between us stretched thin. "I bought it secondhand," I whispered. "Years ago." He nodded. Things find their way back. Even when people don't. His voice broke, just barely. Time loop echo. "Don't move it, you know it hates being moved." I staggered back a step. The pot. The ficus. The scarf. Everything I thought was mine, touched by someone else's grief. Who are you? I breathed. He gave a bitter smile. No one. Unless you're still looking for a job. What? He nodded at my suitcase. The application in the side pocket. The corners folded. My stomach dropped. How? I own the firm. A pause. You said you liked the idea of starting over, he added, voice quieter now. Thought I'd see if you meant it. I didn't know whether to feel violated or seen. I didn't ask for this, I said. I didn't either, he replied. The scarf twisted in my hands. A conductor called out final boarding. This train was mine. Not metaphorical. Literal. The job interview was 2 cities over, and this train was my one way to prove I could rebuild, alone. I turned back toward the station, torn in half. A woman near the kiosk gave me a sideways glance. Her lips curled in that way people do when they've decided who you are before you've opened your mouth. Some people carry more than just bags, they carry silence. I gripped the scarf, heart thudding. Then, with no words, no goodbye, no more waiting, I walked past the train. Past the man. And into the small, gray office tucked at the back of the platform. The one marked, private, personnel only. Inside, a single chair. A file with my name on it. And a post-it on the cover. L. Still believes in second chances? I sat down. Slowly. And closed the door. The chair creaked beneath me. The file sat unopened in my lap, my name written too neatly on the tab, like someone had practiced it, like someone expected me. Outside the glass, the platform had emptied. The train was gone. So was he. I stared at the post-it note. Yellow. Barely holding on. L. Still believes in second chances? The penmanship was sharp. Familiar. I peeled it off and pressed it to my palm. And suddenly I was back on the platform. The first one. The moment before the fall. The ficus. The pot. The thud, not a shatter. I had moved it because I needed something to change. I thought it was harmless. Just a plant. Just a thing. But it wasn't. It was the last place we were still pretending. And now, this scarf. This office. This file. Another place someone was pretending something could still grow. I stood. Pushed open the door. The rain had stopped. He was there, across the platform again, in the same spot I'd seen him first. This time, watching. Only now, I was the one returning. I stepped slowly. Carefully. When I reached him, he spoke first. I didn't follow you. I knew you'd go there. I held out the scarf. He didn't take it. It's not mine anymore, he said. I nodded. It never really was. He looked at me like he wanted to say something bigger, but couldn't find the words. So I found mine instead. Why me? I asked. He looked down. You reminded me of her. The girl? He nodded. She didn't listen either. Moved the plant. Left the scarf. Ran away. A pause. She never came back. I swallowed. The scarf tightened in my grip. You thought if I made it back, maybe she could too? He nodded, once. The wind tugged gently at his coat. I'm not her, I said. I know. Another pause. But I hoped, he added. That maybe you'd forgive something. I blinked. What? He gestured at the platform. At the file. At all of it. For her. For me. For whatever we broke. My chest tightened. I looked at the scarf. Muddy. Torn. Then I knelt, slowly. There was a crack between the platform tiles, just wide enough. I folded the scarf carefully, like cloth over a wound, and pressed it into the earth. Not buried. Not hidden. Just, returned. When I rose, something in my lungs eased. He watched in silence. A man who had orchestrated everything, only to lose it again. I turned to go. But then, his voice, she believed things came back when you stopped chasing them. I turned halfway. Did they? Only the ones that never should have left. We didn't say goodbye. We didn't promise a future. He didn't ask me to stay. I didn't ask him to follow. And that was the final truth of it. Love wasn't what we thought. It was letting go, not to lose something, but to prove it mattered enough to release. I walked out of the station, suitcase dragging behind me, wool still broken. The sky had opened. Not blue. But lighter. Like something had moved, not shattered. And for the first time, I didn't look back.